Welcome to Canada's podcast. I am Phil Bliss, founder and CEO of Canada's podcast, coming to you today from Toronto. Kathy brings over 2 decades of leadership experience in the retail industry to Nurse Next Door. She's been growing the business across North America and has achieved her goal by pushing boundaries to deliver measurable results and by disrupting the home care space. Kathy has been recognized for delivering strong results in the business community across North America. Here are some of her achievements. Nurse Next Door was awarded Canada's Most Admired Corporate Culture by Waterstone in 2018 and was ranked number 50 on Entrepreneur's Franchise 2018. So, Kathy, welcome to Canada's podcast. Before we get too deep in the conversation, I always like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you got here, basically. If you could do that.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Yeah. So Kathy Thorpe, I am the CEO of Nurse Next Door. I have been with the organization for 10 years. And I came out of the retail world and I started my career actually back working for the Gap. And I started as a sales associate and worked my way through various roles, ended up running Germany, came back, ran the Canadian organization Gap and Gap Kids for a few years. And then we decided to move out to Vancouver. And I brought my late husband and kids, and we moved to Vancouver and have enjoyed living in this great city ever since. So yeah, found myself at Nurse Next Door. Actually, we were living in Germany at the time, and I got a call from the founder, and he said, we're looking for a president. Would you be interested in the role? And moved back and have not looked back since.
So what have you accomplished in the last decade? Generally we're interviewing founders, but today, we're interviewing you as an intrapreneur. What have you accomplished, Nurse Next Door, in the last decade?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will give Ken Sim a lot of credit for recognizing that his skill set was, starting the company and building it to where it got to, and then saying, you know what, I don't know how to scale this business. And I want to bring in someone who has that background and ability to, take the business from small to medium. And now, we're a large organization. And that's really, what we've done over the years is we've taken it from, I think when I started, there was 40 franchise locations and we are over 400. We were across Canada, just started in the US. Today we are across North America, Australia, England, and looking at various other countries also. And, just in terms of, I think it's like we still have the essence of who we are and what we're about, but it's really what we've done is scaled this business from small to large, and we continue to grow and see, as Ken would say, hockey stick growth.
So in this entrepreneurial sort of world, what do you see sort of this different about sort of a job and what you're doing?
Yeah, a job. Well, to me, when I hear job, it's someone telling you what to do. And I will say that across this organization, the culture is very much about we own this company and we make the decisions about the success of this organization it's not a job. It's something that is deeply, it's, yeah, it's, we make decisions as though we are the owners of this organization every day.
Well, what's been the greatest challenge you've faced in this sort of 10x, 10-year growth period?
The biggest challenge, I mean, it's, what do you want the culture to be, right? Like, what are you going to create within the culture so that the organization can thrive and people can thrive, and that we have, that we build success.
But I mean, in this decade-long journey, must have hit some walls. Is there a process you've used to kind of go around them? Because obviously you've been able to do that.
To go around them. Yeah. I think part of the mindset here is continuous improvement. And so it's like, we're never satisfied, and we're constantly looking and saying, okay, what can we do better? So I think, like, hitting a wall, it's not a wall. It's just, the company grew, and therefore we have to look at, how we're doing something from a different perspective, because what got us here won't get us there. And, that's part of the fun of all of this, is that we get to constantly be evolving and growing and seeing how we can do things differently.
With over 700 episodes and 500 news articles, we are your go-to source for all things entrepreneurship. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
What are you most excited about in the business today?
I think that when you look at coming out of COVID, well, let me step back. Before COVID, home care was seen as the second option for people. And then, you have COVID and just everything that happened. And coming out of COVID, it's like, oh, wow, people are saying, you know what, I want to stay at home. And it's just, it's the opportunity that we get to support people, and that they want to stay at home, and we get to help them do that. And that's pretty awesome.
Okay. In terms of, growing things, and, we generally have, this is sort of a mentorship thing. Is there any kind of particular, let's say, what's the best piece of advice that you've received that you kind of keep in your back pocket, that you use on a fairly regular basis in terms of progressing the business?
I would say continue to be curious every day and have a learning mindset. We're never there. And how do we continue to grow and learn and develop ourselves? Like, I always say I'm 100% responsible for, anything that happens. So how do I look and say, what can I do better? What can I learn? How can I be a better leader?
Okay. What advice would you give to others who are looking to start a business and grow it like you have, which, over the decade that you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're only as good as the team that you have around you, and always look for people that are better than you. And, it's understand what you're good at, understand what you're not good at, and be very, find people that are going to help the organization thrive because they're bringing in a skill set that you don't have.
Mhm. You know, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Listen, this organization is constantly changing, evolving, growing, and I want to be here making a difference in many lives across the globe. And I know that we're going to continue to open in new countries and be able to bring Nurse Next Door and our philosophy of happier aging to countries that don't know what that means. And we have the opportunity to bring it and create something different.
Mm-hmm. You've done a few things. I mean, although obviously you're liking what you're doing now, you know, if you could go back in time, what would you give your 20-something self the advice in terms of progressing through entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, whichever?
That's a good question. So my 20-year-old self, I would say be bold, take chances, and, when it's uncomfortable, do it. Do it anyway.
That's a good one. I like it. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead? This isn't the only thing you've done in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I came out of the world of retail, and I always say, when you get retail inside you, it never leaves. And I love customer service. I love sales. I love being around people. So I know that if I wasn't doing this, I would be doing something that involved those things.
Okay. It's funny about retail. It's definitely a mindset. I was telling someone else about a month back, and it's the same kind of mindset. I don't know if you're a big reader or a big listener, but what book or podcast are you currently reading and would recommend to the audience?
Well, I'll talk about my book.
Yeah, you can, certainly.
Yeah, like I just finished my book. It was a 4-year journey, and Bold Kindness. And I'm very excited that it was a journey, and it is certainly putting yourself into a vulnerable position of exposing the world to your thoughts. But I'm excited to have it coming out now. And so Bold Kindness.
And where can people get it?
Sorry?
Where can people get it? Is it going to be on Amazon or?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's in Indigo. It's
cool.
You can find it out there.
You a morning or a night person?
I am a morning person.
Interesting. These are just some fun questions. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be, and why would you choose it?
The word that comes to mind is disciplined. I work very hard. I always have, and I'm a very disciplined person, and I think that that's why I've been able to achieve what I've achieved.
What are you most excited about in your business today?
Just the opportunity that home care has in making a difference in people's lives. It truly is something that, when you look at the aging population and just, people want to stay at home. They want to be able to live in their homes as long as they can, and home care gets to help people do that.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
What about the people side of it in terms of, you said retail. Home care, I think everyone's sort of interested in, is it, when you get home care, is who's going to be coming to look after me? How, what's the kind of profile of that person that succeeds?
Well, I think what we focus on is actually understanding who the client is and what type of, like, who do they want in their home? What's the personality of the caregiver that they would like to have? And I think that that's the difference. I think when you look at typical home care that's out there, you just have someone showing up. You don't know who that person is, but we really take the time to understand who the client is, what they're looking for, and then we're matching the caregiver to that person so that you can really build a relationship. Because listen, that's not easy when you have someone coming into your home, your space, and you want to make sure that that is someone that you feel comfortable with.
Okay. What's keeping you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I think it's just, how do we continue to, move this business forward and at the same time understand, like everyone talks about AI and what that's going to do for home care. And I don't know the answer to that. And I think that it's those things that we just have to be comfortable in saying, you know what, let's be curious, let's learn, let's understand it. I think it's also, how do we build partnerships? Because I know that home care, for people to stay at home, you need other partnerships that support that also. As an example, I think of pharmacy. How do we build the relationship with pharmacies? Because you need all of that to be able to stay in your home. And I think that it's just having that openness and curiosity about what it takes for someone to be at home, and that it's not just home care.
Interesting. A little bit related to that, what would you say are the top 3 things on what I term your vision board right now in terms of futures?
Global.
It's not just the company; it's your vision board as well.
Oh, my own. Well, listen. So 3 years ago, I lost my husband to cancer, and I will say that I have been on a journey of creating what I call my version 2.0. And so, it's not necessarily the top 3 things. It's, how do I continue to go after life and not be afraid of doing things and trying things? And, life is short. And how do we step into being bold every day and not regretting?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think, on one other thing is really, with that in mind as well, what's the absolute biggest challenge you face in your future?
I think it's time. And, how do you accomplish all the things you want to do? And yeah, time goes fast.
Interesting. That's a good one. I think you're very precise. I think we've covered most of the things that I wanted to do. How can people get a hold of you? There's some very good gems in there, and people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I would love to hear from people. I love meeting people, talking to people. There's so many great stories out there. And how do we just share and be human together?
Okay. Kathy, thanks for coming on Canada's podcast. It's been very, very interesting. You're quite an enterprising entrepreneur, I see. So great.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Okay, thank you.